I got my glass of orange juice, so that's okay.
Yeah, and I'm doing all better now.
Grab your glass of orange juice, and here we go. And this is still Too Many Movies, the podcast where we discuss DVDs, Blu-rays, and even the occasional VHS tape. I'm your host, Tal, and welcome back, everybody, guests and listeners, to another installment of Superman Summer, the Summer of Superman. This episode, I'm joined by Chaos. Chaos, how's it going?
Hello, Citizen Hal. I am Chaos Beetle Frontiers, the greatest criminal mind of our time. And I am very happy to be here for Superman Month, considering my own history with the character. It's an honor.
Yeah. Well, so last episode we talked about the Fleischer Superman cartoons, stuff I grew up with. This episode, let's talk about a couple of Superman movies, some very specific ones. Let's just get right into the first one, though, that being Superman 1978, the one with Christopher Reeve. This is a film that is very historically important because it is pretty much the very first superhero movie, if we're being technical. Like, yeah, there were cartoons and serials beforehand, but this was the first proper superhero movie. You look back, I feel like a lot of superhero movies of the modern age kind of owe it to this one. For better and for worse, I'll say that.
Yeah, like you looked before Superman 1978, and you have like a lot of serials and older stuff. Like I can get into this a bit later, but there's stuff like the George Reeves show, all the radio shows, and technically the first Superman movie was, I think, part of the George Reeves show called Superman versus the Mole Men, which I need to double check, but I wouldn't be surprised if that was just a bunch of episodes strung together.
Yeah, that sounds like something they would do back in the day. But this definitely felt like, I mean, even still looking at it, this is still, I would say, the proper superhero film that a lot of superhero films kind of take influence from.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. It's one that I didn't grow up watching a ton. I definitely watched it as a very young child and I loved it. But it's not one I've returned to as often as I have other movies. But through watching it again, I can tell you it's a very important film, and one that I adore so much. It's really special.
I wholeheartedly agree, but I have my own history with it, if you don't mind me sharing that.
Please, you're the guest.
Of course. So basically, Superman 1978 was never a movie I grew up with as myself. But like, as a really young kid, I technically grew up with it as a teen, but still, when I was growing up as a kid with my parents, I would say that, like a lot of kids, the superhero I was probably most exposed to was Batman, which included a lot of the movies like mainly Batman Returns, Batman Begins, and The Dark Knight. It wasn't until I got older where I saw more DC media. It was the Teen Titans show that really got me back into like the whole DC fandom sphere. And then watching Legion of Superheroes really shot my love for Superman up into the stratosphere. I'm just going to preface this since, I'm spoilers, but I'm going to be appearing more during the Superman month.
Yeah.
Spoilers for BoJack Horseman. That wasn't a spoiler until you said the name of the TV show.
Spoilers for Superman Summer, the Summer of Superman. Yeah.
For real.
Yeah.
And then Superman is by far my personal favorite comic book superhero of all time. There's others that I do also really adore, because last time I was on the show we discussed Blue Beetle. That's another superhero I really love, but for me, Superman is like the one superhero that's constantly home to some of my favorite some of my favorite shows of all time, some of my favorite movies of all time, and especially some of my personal favorite comics of all time. And when it came to like Superman 1978, I first watched it after being more experienced with movies that were kind of were I don't want to say parodying, but more like subverting a lot of the tropes that movie established. Like Megamind's the big one, but you also have stuff like The Incredibles for sure.
Yeah.
And first watching it, I decided to go with like the initial 8 out of 10 that I've seen a lot of people go with, and then I gave I gave a 8 out of 10 again on rewatch, but that was with the 3-hour TV cut, which I do want to get into a tiny little bit for later. But it wasn't until there's like where I used to live in like a more rural town. There was a art house theater that wasn't too far from where we lived that my family we used to go to a lot because of a lot of the events that was there. If anyone's familiar with Pennsylvania at all, the Bethlehem Steelworks might ring some bells.
Mm-hmm.
And next to that was the Arts Quest, which had an art house theater. And lo and behold, Superman 1978 was one of the movies that was showing there one year. I think it was 2022. And so I was lucky enough to get a ticket, get driven there and see the movie by myself in theaters. And that was when I finally, on that very special watch, I finally gave the movie a 10 out of 10. So, cat's out of the bag. I fucking love this movie. It is one of my favorite movies of all time. I can rewatch it any day of the week and never get tired of it. It's so good.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's my second favorite, right behind Prince of Egypt. So in terms of that movie, let's talk more about it now. I think what really, makes a movie more impactful right out of the gate is the way it decides to open up, where we get where it opens right up on Krypton. We get the whole origin of it.
Well, so I just wanted to mention this actually, because is this in the theatrical cut too? The opening with the black and white and the kid opening up the comic book.
It is actually
okay, yeah, because that's the opening I think of. Because that's also in the extended cut. It's weird. I'll get into my thing with the extended cut and theatrical cut later on when we talk about the DVD. But yeah, that opening I just want to mention real quick, I think is a really good way of establishing just how much of a love letter to Superman this movie is, by acknowledging the fact that, his humble beginnings as a comic book character from the 1930s.
Right.
And then it like transitions into the 1970s titles.
And that credit sequence is so good.
Oh, yeah.
Like, genuinely one of the best of all time.
It gets you pumped. Not only because of the music, but because of the visuals. It's so iconic.
And with that opening especially, I think you are right in, it is the definitive opening of the movie. But also, I don't know why, but there's also just this focus that puts on the Daily Planet, where what makes the Daily Planet such an iconic comic book setting is it's the place where Superman works at that above all else stands for truth, justice, and as it was back in 1978, the American way.
The American way.
Yeah. Nowadays it's been changed to the Better Tomorrow, which I do think suits the character more, but still, I think it's a very good opening. And then right after that, you get to the whole origin with Krypton that I was talking about.
Yeah, so after the credits roll, which I also want to mention, I think it's really funny that Christopher Reeve is, the title Superman character, but he's third billed behind Marlon Brando and Gene Hackman. I mean, because they were the bigger stars at the time, I get it, but it's just really funny that the main character gets third billing.
Yeah. And Marlon Brando is barely even in it.
But... Well, yeah. So he's in the Krypton opening. Let's get into Krypton.
Yes. So what's really interesting about it is that it closes on to this big white dome, just a very iconic scene. That just how masterly crafted all the sets in this movie are. Like they
Oh
are
yeah.
so good.
Yeah. This movie's version of Krypton is different than a lot of Kryptons I've seen. I don't know what I would consider my definitive Krypton. I'd have to really think about that as I go through the rest of Superman Summer, the Summer of Superman. But I
Right.
think this one does have an iconic uh, production design to it that I can still see it being somebody's definitive Krypton. It's still a really cool Krypton. I'll say that.
It's a very crystalline planet,
Mm.
very similar to the Fortress of Solitude.
Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
good point. Yeah, the fact that the Fortress of Solitude looks like that is probably inspired by the fact that that's what Krypton looked like. So that's a
Right.
good point. Yeah.
Yeah. And personally, I guess I would say I think my personal favorite version of Krypton that I've seen in maybe so far would be the SKAS version, mainly because, well, the first episode of that show is fucking amazing. But
Mm.
back on topic, uh, Donner's Krypton, I think, is still very visually impressive,
Oh
especially
yeah,
for the time.
yeah. Reminds me of the Dark Crystal, kind of.
and then and then you immediately get a scope of what Krypton is like during these worst times. You
Mm.
see Jor-El having to imprison General Zod and his cronies,
Yeah.
which this scene is present in, both cuts, since this was being made around the same time as Superman 2.
Yeah. I think if you look at it on its own, like within the movie, it's a weirdly out of place scene. It makes sense going forward with Superman 2. It's like, okay, that's why it was included. That makes total sense. And it's not a bad
Right.
scene by any means. It's just within the context of the first movie, it is kind of weirdly put in there where it's like, who is this General Zod character? Why should we care? But still, it's acted greatly, and yeah, it's very iconic because you have them in the spinning hula hoops, and then you just have these giant
Yeah.
faces surrounding everything. They're just like guilty, guilty,
Guilty.
guilty, guilty. It's like, oh
Guilty.
yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah. And also you have my favorite General Zod line. You will bow down before me. I swear it. Both you. And then one day, your heirs.
Yeah, cold line. And Terrence Stamp does a great job in just delivering it. Again, just in the first 5 minutes of this movie, in a scene that really has nothing to do with the rest of this movie, it pays more into Superman 2, but it's still very well done.
Right. And then you get to Jor-El's whole falling out with the council
Mm-hmm.
by warning them of Krypton's impending destruction, which multiple obviously multiple takes on Superman have their own interpretations of the scene. And I think while this isn't my favorite, it still does a very supremely job establishing Jor-El's place in Kryptonian society and his concerns for his family, especially with just doing so little.
Mm-hmm.
And then right after that, you get the iconic scene where Jor-El and Lara do discuss the consequences of sending their own son onto Earth, since they're worried that he'll be seen as an outcast.
Yeah. I do like that we are getting all this we're getting all this to set up Superman. Yes, it has, because they're dead by the end of this because Krypton blows up. I just like that we get all this set up, and it's not just because back in the Fleischer cartoons, the way they described the origin of Superman was they just showed Krypton kind of glowing green. You see a rocket ship leave, and then the planet blows up, and that's all you get. Whereas I feel like actually characterizing Jor-El and Lara, actually characterizing Krypton for that matter, I feel it does set up Superman to make him a little bit more of a well-rounded character, because you're showing him like where he's coming from. You're showing the planet, and also like you said, they're discussing the fate of him going to this new planet, and he is going to be different. They acknowledge that.
It's like a very intrinsic part of Superman's character for me. Where it's like he's given the chance to actually live a life on Earth and be the last survivor of Krypton, allegedly. But unless he finds more of his own people, he's pretty much always destined to be weird and alone. And eventually, with how he's raised, it's how he chooses to use those powers and try to fit into society that I think makes him a super compelling character.
Yeah, it feels like, and I know they do this in the comics. I would imagine a lot of what they're talking about is lifted from comics, not word for word, but I would imagine the origins of having Krypton, having these people like send him away. It's all explanation to explain why he goes around in these blue tights fighting bad guys.
Right.
But it is a good explanation. I think they explain it fine. I think they do a good job at establishing. You don't need an establishing. Like, yeah, when they came up with Superman, they weren't thinking of this origin. They were just thinking, we want a guy in blue tights going around punching bad guys. Yeah. But I think with what they have to work with, they make it work. They make it work thematically. They make it work very well.
100%. And actually, fun fact, which kind of leads into the Smallville stuff. Originally in the Golden Age, I don't think Clark actually got founded by Martha and John, but rather I could be wrong, but I think it was the foster system that he was put into.
Yeah, so to go back to the Fleischer cartoons, in the very first one, after Krypton blows up and the rocket ship lands on Earth, they just say, and the Superman was brought to an orphanage and where he lived out the rest of his days until he became an adult and became Clark Kent. It's like, whoa. Yeah. What do you mean he was in an orphanage? What? Well, okay, I guess it doesn't matter because the Fleischer cartoons were more about Superman in his present era. It wasn't about his past, wasn't about his future. It was about him just fighting bad guys like the mad scientist and his condor and a giant dinosaur. So I get it. So I feel like it makes it better here where they actually take the time to show where he ended up on Earth, and that is in Kansas with the Kents.
For sure. And it also makes it funnier in the Silver Age where Clark just sicks Kara into an orphanage without her word in the matter.
Yeah, man. Yeah, no. I like the idea of the Kents adopting him. I feel like for years I've just always accepted that because like, oh, that's Superman's origin. Krypton blows up. He goes to Earth. He gets adopted by the Kents. Those are things you just kind of accept as Superman's origin. But through truly thinking about it, I think this movie does show why the Kents adopt him, and who these people are into forming who Superman becomes, because he's not just Kryptonian. He is, ostensibly a little kid growing up in Kansas. These people aren't his biological parents, but they are his parents. Like, they're the people who shaped him into the person that he is today.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, and also what this movie does explore later on is his connections to both sides of his parents, which I do find especially compelling.
Yeah.
Starting with the Kents, well, first off, when we crash into Smallville, you see a toddler penis. Not a fan of that.
Yeah, I never liked that. I'm just like, why is this child naked? I mean, I get it. He doesn't have any clothes on because he was a child. He was a baby when he goes into the spaceship. But then you just see a child's penis. It's like, Donner, we didn't need the child's penis.
Put some pants on him, damn it.
They do. They do.
Fair, I'm not even that mad at it anymore since, fine, it was the 70s.
Yeah, it was different.
And also Snyder did it again, so.
Oh, that's true. We do see the child's penis in Man of Steel. Enough of the children's penis. I don't want to see James Gunn, I swear to God.
Oh my god, that would be so fucking funny.
I mean, come on, guys. I got to keep the tradition going, showing the child's penis.
It makes the pedo party allegations way more real.
Yeah. Moving on.
Okay. Back onto more serious matters. So, speaking of Kansas, I watched a documentary for this right before recording. And apparently, all the Smallville stuff, they actually didn't film it in Kansas because by the time that they wanted to, there was already a harvesting season going on.
Ah, yeah.
So instead, they actually filmed in Canada.
Okay. God damn it. I mean, yeah, if you're not going to film anywhere in America, you're going to go to Canada because it's probably cheaper to film in Canada, so that makes sense. Yeah, even still, you know what? I could have fallen for it because, I mean, well, I guess Kansas is flatland, and I feel like there's a lot more kind of hills in this movie, but whatever. Yeah, no, who cares?
Really
No one's going to notice.
Also, then you get to the actual Smallville stuff, where you see, after Martha and John discover that he has powers and then decide to adopt him, it goes to like a hard cut into like the future, which something weird that I want to compliment this movie more. Whenever there are time skips, I actually do like it that the movie never establishes how much time has passed with like a title card, since like even though it's standard, it still feels natural, and it also has natural trust in the audience to put the pieces together themselves.
Yeah, because you have, I mean, immediately the characters are like, "Hey, Clark," and you see this guy who looks like a young Christopher Reeve, so you assume, "Oh, that's Clark."
Yep. And then throughout that whole sequence, we see Clark actually using his powers, establishing that he knows about them, and using it not too responsibly, more so for kind of selfish stuff, like trying to outrun a train just so he can catch Brett on like the other side to where the Kent farm is.
Yeah, he wants to show off because just to show up because he wants to show that he is special, even though he's put down because he's the water boy and not an actual football player. He still wants to show off, and he gets to his house faster than they do, and they're just like, "Oh, whatever, freak. Let's go do stuff that '60s teenagers do." But I do like because it then works into Pa Kent, talking to him, being like, showing off, huh? And I like it because this is a great moment to show why, he doesn't want. It's the with great power comes great responsibility scene. But I feel like this movie is able to make it its own, where you show Pa being like, "Hey, I know you have these great abilities, and it's cool that you do have them, but remember, I feel as though you were put on this place, you were put here on the earth for better reasons than just playing football and showing off to teenagers,
Right.
And that's true. He is.
Yeah, and like the other interesting part that I actually do find about that scene is touches on the immigrant side of Superman a little bit, where a part of John's worry is seeing how is fearing that people would just come in and take Clark away because of his abilities. Which we can get more into it in a later episode, I guess, but like it's very weird rewatching like Man of Steel earlier this year and going like, I want you to hide your powers and to not save people because they're not going to believe what you can do. When in this movie it's as simple as, you're being a showboat, but we took you in because we were worried that people were going to take you for their own selfish purposes, and you need to have more responsibility with how you use your powers. That's really good stuff.
Oh yeah. The Jonathan Kent speech in this one far surpasses Man of Steel. Yeah, again, we'll save that for later. But yeah, I just find it, I believe it better. Because I believe that Jonathan actually cares about Clark. He's like, yeah, I'm doing this because I know you can do special things. I know much better than football or other things. That stuff doesn't matter. What matters is what you can do to make the world a better place. He doesn't know how, because of course he doesn't. He's just a simple farmer, but he knows that there's some greater power at work here that he can't understand. But he knows that Clark playing football is not one of that.
Right, and eventually Clark will have to find his purpose later on in the future, which eventually does lead us to John Kent having a stroke on the farm, which is, oh my god. I noticed this on rewatch especially, but I love the cinematography in this movie so much.
Mm.
Like throughout John Kent's whole breakdown, it uses a lot of wide shots, and I think it especially just makes a viewer feel really helpless in the whole situation. Like
Yeah.
there's just this big landscape, and there's just someone who we barely know yet are already attached to, just dying out there on the farm,
Yeah.
and we're just so far away from it.
Yeah, and it adds to Clark's hardships with that, because then when they're at the funeral and he just goes, I could have saved him, but I couldn't.
Yeah, all these powers and I couldn't even save him.
Yeah, and that kind of plays into Clark's whole character.
Right. And then that eventually leads to Clark discovering his Kryptonian heritage, having to say goodbye to his mom, which is also another super good scene, which I can say about pretty much every single scene in this movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then eventually traveling north.
To the North Pole.
It's ice cold sushi for breakfast, boys.
Yeah. Yeah, and I do like how he throws the green crystal and it forms the Fortress of Solitude, and establishing, this is where I belong now.
Wait. Green crystal, you say? Say that again.
Yeah. Yeah. Is there anything else regarding Smallville, or do we want to get into the Metropolis scenes?
I do like the little bit with Lana.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Like Lana, unfortunately, 3 is the one that uses her the most.
Yeah.
But, in 1978, she's like very simple character. You understand that Clark does have a connection with her, and it's just, I don't know, just seeing him interact with like the other schoolmates it's really charming.
Yeah.
And then going to ice cold sushi for breakfast, boys. The Fortress of Solitude is another amazing set in this film.
Mm-hmm.
Very reminiscent of Krypton, like as intended.
Yeah.
But also, it's just so mesmerizing in a way that I don't know how to describe it.
Yeah, I mean, whenever I think of Fortress of Solitude, I think of this movie's version of that, where it's the ice pillars just kind of forming kind of like almost like a church in a sort of way. I don't know if I don't know what that means, but like that must mean something to Donner.
And just like it, and also in like this really jagged way with mist coming from the floor, and then Clark eventually discovering the crystals and meeting his dad for the first time. It's really good stuff.
Yeah.
And then after, that whole skip where Jor-El teaches Clark all that he knows throughout such a long period of time.
Yeah.
Then he becomes Superman, and then we get to the Metropolis stuff where the movie goes into overdrive with how good it is.
It is crazy that we don't get to Metropolis until like 45 or 50 minutes into the movie.
Yeah.
But I mean, again, all this setup I think is paced very well. I think it's acted very well. So you don't mind that there's all this setup.
Yeah, and that's like another thing that I was thinking about. The theatrical cut, the shortest cut of the movie, is 2 hours and 23 minutes, and yet all of it flows so well.
Oh, yeah.
It's a perfectly paced movie.
Yeah. Which is why I've never been a fan of saying, oh, the movie's long, ergo it's going to feel long. It's like, no, there have been plenty of movies that are, 2.5 hours, 3 hours maybe, that just go by in a breeze. It's something.
Batman.
Yeah, the Batman. Like, I never felt bored throughout the Batman, and that's, 3 hours long. Like, you can have, as long as your pacing is good, pacing is always the most important part of
100%.
a movie's runtime. A movie can be any length, and it can be just a breeze. Trust me, I've seen plenty of 80-minute movies that felt like an eternity. Okay. Oh, boy.
Yeah, considering all the watch parties we've had, I can agree with that.
Yeah.
I'm never watching Milan 2 again.
Oof. Oof. Oh, some of those Disney sequels, man. Oof.
Dear Lord. Well, except the ones with the helicopter.
Yeah, well, yeah. That goes without saying.
Obviously.
Obviously.
Yeah.
Speaking of helicopter, Metropolis.
Oh yeah, this movie does have a helicopter.
Yeah, but I mean, before then, yeah, we established the Daily Planet. We established Luther and his God amongst men hired goon Otis.
Oh, yeah. But before we can get to those God amongst men, I want to talk about the Daily Planet.
Sure.
Fantastic set, by the way.
Oh yeah, iconic.
Yeah, I believe it was shot in a very popular New York newspaper outlet, which
sure,
obviously garnered a lot of attention. But the actual design for the Daily Planet is just so good, so mesmerizing. Like, I love the spinning dome inside the building itself. It's so good.
Yeah.
And then you have like the way how all the offices are set up, and for some reason in particular, it's Perry White's office that's like so mesmerizing to me, just being closed off from everything else, yet being so big.
Yeah, I mean, he is the editor-in-chief. He's kind of the big boss. But yeah, you do get that sense of the glass kind of separating everything. Yeah.
Yeah. Plus, that room also has one of my favorite jokes in the movie. There's only one P in rapist.
PG, by the way.
Yep. Which the whole Metropolis stuff leads into one of my biggest compliments for the movie. Superman 1978, specifically the theatrical cut, is one of the funniest movies I've seen in my entire life. The jokes are so fucking good. And like, there's like another one that's close to Perry's office where where Clark is asking Perry to send half of his paycheck over to his house, and then Lois is like, "Don't tell me he sends it to like his gray-haired elderly mother for every paycheck," and then Clark corrects her by saying, "Actually, she's silver-haired."
Actually, it's silver-haired, yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of Lois and Perry, also perfect casting for both of them.
I do really like this Perry, yeah. And again, it's hard for me to come to a conclusion of who my definitive Lois is. It's hard for me to come up with my definitive Superman. But like, definitely it's hard for me to decide who my definitive Lois is. But Margot Kidder does knock it out of the park.
Yeah. She's one of my top 3 Loises, probably just a little behind STAS and Moz, personally, for me. But it's a very steep competition because most versions of Lois I do love. She's probably my personal favorite female character in comics. Just I've read a lot of Superman comics, which includes reading a lot of Lois material, and I think she's consistently a super interesting character, which this movie also showcases with just how proactive she is compared to, a lot of even compared to other female characters around that time, and even in comics. Like, she's always looking for a story and also doing insane shit.
Yes, that is definitely something I get across. When it comes to the best kinds of Loises, you get somebody who's a determined journalist, and with that comes kind of insanity, but charmingly insane. Like, you're still just like, oh, Lois, you little scamp.
My little pookie wookie.
Yeah. It's always charming. And if it's not, well, you're not doing Lois correctly, I'm afraid.
Yeah. Amy Adams.
Who said that?
Yep. Was there a draft in here?
I love Margot Kidder as Lois in this one. She's very spunky, very funny, which you want in a Lois.
Yeah. Like when Clark and Lois start walking out of the building together, when Perry saddles Lois with him, he says, not only does he treat his editor-in-chief with the proper respect, not only does he he is also the fastest damn typist I have seen in my entire.
Yeah, that's clever. I like that. It's subtle.
Paraphrase.
Yeah, but it is subtle. The fact that he's like, oh, he's the fastest typist I've ever seen. It's like, that's a subtle wink to the audience, being like, because he's Superman.
And And then when they're walking out of the building together, she goes, you know, not a lot of people in this world are still comfortable with using that word, swell.
Yeah. I like that scene because it's very embodying of what Superman not only as a character represents, but also like what the movie represented at the time. Because you got to remember, this movie came out in 1978. The 70s were kind of miserable. And so, a lot of people, by making Superman, you're kind of bringing back this this idea of Superman. Because Superman in the 30s, remember the 30s, also kind of miserable, the Great Depression. Right. So you had this character that's this beacon of hope kind of coming in to like kind of make people feel better. And so, yeah, in this movie, because it's the 70s and things are fucking pretty depressing and miserable, and then you have Lois kind of spelling it out, being like, people aren't really comfortable with using the word swell anymore. But then you have Superman, who's this very, very optimistic kind of character, just using it because, well, he's optimistic. He has, for sure, he has this very positive outlook on life.
Yeah, and going back to the documentary I was talking about earlier, Christopher Reeve said at the very end of it that the greatest challenge for them wasn't making the audience believe that man could fly, but rather trying to make Superman relevant in a post-Watergate world.
I mean, yeah, because again, like you have this very optimistic kind of character, you need him. You need Superman to be the beacon of light, the beacon of hope. You don't make Superman depressing. Again, Man of Steel, we'll get to it.
Yep. And then I think obviously this movie knocked it out of the park, but also kind of established, with the exception of especially like the early 2010s, which was really bad with how it treated the character. Superman, even if it seems like he is fighting against relevancy, he's always going to have a place in pop culture because there's always going to be a lot of awful shit going on.
Yes.
Especially when we're dealing with it currently in this decade. And he's always going to be that beacon of hope that people can always look for, even if Batman and Spider-Man have bigger portfolios than him at this point. Superman's always going to be there.
Yeah. I mean, this is why I've wanted to dedicate an entire bunch of episodes to this character, because this is a character that I grew up idolizing. I didn't really understand why. Basically, I think when I was younger, I just thought he looked cool because I liked the combination of the blue, yellow, and red. But I think this is a very important character. The fact that we're still seeing him to this day, there's something important here. Yes, it's not, like we said, Spider-Man or Batman levels, but he's still a very important character, and I think it's important to keep him relevant for as long as we can.
For sure. Though, a Superman, in retrospect, is still only a man amongst man. So let's talk about the god amongst man now.
Otis. So it's funny. I remember I looked back at some of my early logs of this movie, and I apparently hated Otis. I mean, I get it. I guess probably at the time I thought like, oh, he's this bumbling doofus in a movie. It's like, oh, I can't take this character seriously. But it's like, what movie am I fucking watching if I'm not taking it seriously? Like, you can have, because he doesn't. I love Otis. I'll just say straight up. Sorry. I think Ned Beatty is this bizarre hired goon, but I love him because he's just like this bumbling doofus walking around being like, okay, Mr. Luthor, like pure hired goon energy. I love that. Yeah.
Literally every single interaction he has with Lex is total gold.
Yeah.
Didn't I ask you to get me the morning newspaper? Why am I not reading it yet? Because I haven't given it to you yet. Just snatches from him.
Oh yeah, no, he's a fun hired goon character. I love Otis. I've grown to love Otis. I'm Team Otis now.
Same.
Yeah, Team Otis. I would love to live in Otisburg.
Oh my god, Otisburg is the place that everyone needs to be.
Otisburg.
Miss Teschmacher, she's got her own little place. Otisburg, it's a little place. Otisburg.
Well, now we also got to talk about Gene Hackman as Lex Luthor. So this has been kind of the unofficial year of Gene Hackman for the podcast. I mean, it's the year of Gene Hackman because he passed away, obviously,
Right.
unexpectedly so. But he was in the Poseidon Adventure, which you talked about earlier this year. He was in Get Shorty, that I talked about earlier this year, and now he's in a bunch of Superman movies that we're talking about. And
Yeah, for sure.
Gene
And
Hackman as Luthor, once again, I don't know if he's my definitive Lex Luthor, but what I like about this characterization is I feel like he kind of makes it his own.
right.
Because, like, you know, whenever you think of Lex Luthor, you think of bald, you think billionaire genius. I feel like there are better characterizations of that, but I feel like because Gene Hackman is such a good actor, he kind of makes Lex his own this time. So even though he doesn't look the part, because again, he's not bald until like the very last second, I still think this is still a very iconic superhero villain, regardless of comic book accuracy, you know?
100%. I was going to say with like comic book accuracy, Gene Hackman's Luthor's like in a super weird place where this was released around the Bronze Age of comics, where throughout both the Silver Age and the Bronze Age, Lex was Superman's arch nemesis because he filled the mad scientist role at the time. And it was only when Gene Hackman actually with Donner's and Hackman's take on the character that he kind of settled more into the business tycoon part of the role, because this version of the character is obsessed with real estate. And then going forward, after this movie, you had the whole Crisis on Infinite Earths, where after that, a lot of characters got revamped for post-Crisis. And then Marv Wolfman and John Byrne reimagined him, partly inspired by Hackman, as this business tycoon, CEO of LexCorp, who was supposed to be a mockery of more, objectivist politicians and business tycoons.
Okay.
And then that got even more popular when the DCAU took that role, and since then, Lex has been filling both the roles of mad scientists and greedy CEO villain.
That's cool. Yeah, no, that's awesome. Okay, so Hackman did kind of inspire a lot of what we know of Lex Luthor nowadays. Oh, I didn't know that.
Yep. Because they took a different direction from what was going on with Luthor at the time. Even Lex Luthor Incorporated got name dropped in, which would go on to become LexCorp.
Yeah.
And obviously the rest is history.
Yeah. Yeah, no, and I do love this version of Luthor, though, because he is, I love his cockiness. I love how so sure of himself that he's the smartest character in the room, which, to be fair, he usually is.
Right.
But it just makes him all the more smarmy and detestable, and I love that in a villain. Like, you want that in a villain. You want this cocky asshole.
It's like always so weird to me when people consider Hackman to be one of the weaker versions of the character, because it's like, okay, it's not exactly the same thing as like the mad scientists, and it's obviously more of a prototype of what we would get going forward, but like Hackman perfectly embodies the evil genius and the cockiness of Luthor's behavior. Like, this version of Lex especially revels in being the absolute worst person imaginable.
Yeah. It's great. Yeah, no, and again, Hackman, I mean, he was one of those talents, man. Like, every performance I've ever seen him in, he knocks it out of the park. He was just such a good actor. And yeah, this is no different. This is obviously, I would say this was probably my first Hackman movie. Yeah, I feel like as a kid, like this would have been my introduction to Gene Hackman as an actor, and yeah, just I don't know if it's my favorite performance of his, but it's got to be up there because it's just so iconic.
Yeah, the Superman movies are like my main Gene Hackman movies, which I should check out more of, but it's just because of his performance as Luthor that Fun fact, not only was he the main inspiration for one of my art projects back when I was in school, but also so with like a lot of celebrity deaths being covered in the media a lot, I know obviously a lot of people get sad over them, and I do too, but
Mhm.
most of the time, personally speaking, they aren't really actors that I was personally, super familiar with or close to. I think it was Hackman's death this year that really hit me hard, to be
Yeah.
honest.
Oh yeah, no. Sometimes, yeah, a lot of times you hear celebrities die and you go, "Oh, that's sad on principle." Again, not to be heartless about it, but you don't really know these people. So when they die, you're just like, "Yeah, that's sad on principle," but I'm not totally affected by it. But then sometimes a celebrity death does affect you to a point where you're like, "All right, fuck, this hurts."
Right. And especially learning that Hackman's death was a complete accident,
Oh yeah.
like a gas leak or something, that
Oh,
sucks.
dude, it's like Jesus, man. You could have gone even further because he was already 95. The fact that he could have kept going, it's like, ugh, yeah, that makes it even
Right.
sadder.
Yeah. Just phenomenal actor and a phenomenal villain that he's
Yeah,
playing. I love this version of Lex so much. I don't know if he's definitely not my favorite, because that is actually in the comics with Mark Waid's take on Luthor. I love his take on Lex so much. It is so good for me, but Hackman, top five for me at least.
hmm
Such a good take on my personal favorite comic villain.
yeah. Um, I guess there's another hired gun we talk about, Miss Teskmacher. What's her deal? Why
Miss
is she?
Teschmacher!
Yeah. Why is she in the movie? I mean, she is funny, but like I don't know. I feel like I get more out of Otis as a hired goon in
Right.
this movie. But I still like Miss Teskmacher. I think she still serves her purpose well.
I mainly like her because she constantly calls out Lex for being a sick, greedy bitch, and she still sticks around with
Yeah.
him just to leech off of his wealth.
It
That's
is funny.
funny.
Yeah, it is funny, and yeah, yeah.
And funnily enough, I obviously as I kind of talked about in your server earlier, most of the Superman movies just use OCs for a lot of their villains, which
Yeah.
really sucks since the Superman Rogues Gallery is one of my personal favorites.
hmm
But even Otis are actually movie originals, and I think who actually work as Luthor's henchmen, especially since he barely had any in the comics.
Yeah, I feel like as henchmen go, I think Miss Taskmacher and Otis are still fun characters. So what they are, yeah, they're goofy at times because yeah, the music is goofy whenever they're on screen, and they are pretty much just comedic foils. But I think they still work. Like they're still entertaining characters. You can have goofy side characters like this and still have the emotional moments hit pretty hard.
Right. And also, I didn't even talk about my favorite joke in the movie yet. Otis, would you like to see a long arm? Otis, would you like to see a very long arm? Otis?
And then it cuts to the next scene, and Otis has a black eye.
Literally beats up Otis in the van while Tessmacher has to take the wheel.
Yeah,
Because Otis got one vector wrong.
yeah,
And then throughout most of the rest of the movie, you see Otis with a black eye that no one calls attention to.
that's funny. Yeah, you don't always have to call attention to a detail in a movie, and that because again, if anybody had pointed out, "Hey, how'd you get that black eye?" the joke wouldn't be that funny. It's funnier just the
Right.
fact that he just has it for the rest of the movie for people to notice. Yeah,
And he just puts up with it.
yeah, it's great. It's so good. Um,
M as in moron, Otis. No, N. N as in Neanderthal, nincompoop, nitwit. I could quote so many of Lex's and Otis's lines for days. They are so good.
They are very good, yeah. I do kind of want to talk a little bit about the emotional moments I was talking earlier about.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, because I do get kind of emotional with this movie, and that's thanks to go back a little. We have the helicopter scene where it's Superman's first official scene in the movie, where Lois is hanging off the helicopter because it's kind of caught in wires on the top of the Daily Planet, and so she's like kind of hanging there, and that's what Superman's just like, oh, gotta save the day. You got the iconic him running away, tearing off his shirt. You see the Superman logo. He goes into the fucking actually, I like this because there's that moment where he goes up to a phone booth, and it's not one of those phone booths you can just like close off. And I like that little moment. It's like a little cheeky, like, oh, haha, phone booths aren't what they used to be. They're especially not what they used to be nowadays because, well, they don't exist anymore.
Yeah, I like that little detail.
Yeah, that's fun. But so then he goes into the revolving doors on a building. He runs around. He gets noticed by that guy who's just like, hey, man, this a bad outfit.
Oh, that's such a good bit.
Yeah, but
and obviously you get the part where he finally flies up, swoops in, saves Lois. She asks him, "You got me? Who's got you?" And then he catches a helicopter.
Yeah,
awesome shit.
No big deal. Just carries up Lois and a fucking helicopter. As the theme song is blaring, it really gets you choked up. Where you're just like, "Fuck, dude, this rules." Yeah, because it's watching a superhero be a superhero where he's actually saving people.
Right. And, like, imagine watching this in the theater in 1978.
Oh, people...
I couldn't even do that. My mind would probably be fucking blown.
Yeah, people were probably wilding out back in 1978, just being like, what the fuck? He could carry a helicopter.
Holy shit, Beast. That's a helicopter.
Someone was bound to say it.
Got it.
Yeah, someone was bound to say it.
Had to be me.
Yeah, and I do also, like, because then it kind of... go ahead.
I was going to bring up another thing I learned in the documentary. This was being filmed when there was like a blackout in New York. And it took them 6 months alone to film the whole helicopter scene.
Crazy. Jeez. Oh my God.
Yep.
But what I was going to say is that then leads into various other scenes of Superman saving the day. He stops a guy from robbing a building when he's like standing on the window. You get the scene of him like chasing the bank robbers onto the boat. I love the shot of him just like standing there on the boat with his arms crossed, and one of them sneaks up on him with a crowbar, hits him, and it just bounces off of him like nothing.
And then the very next scene right after that is like the police at the police station where he just drops the boat off.
Yeah, they're like, first round's on me.
and for some reason, it just makes it even better for me that all this takes place during night, because it just because not only does it still manage to capture that epic grand atmosphere that Superman has as his colorful outfit just flashes in with the night sky and everything, but also gives it kind of a, certain moody liveliness to it, because that's kind of how I feel with how it looks at night, to be honest.
Yeah, kind of adds to like the mystical element of it too.
Right, like the whole city's dark, but even still with night time coming in, lights are still on, the city's still well and live. That's Metropolis, baby. Yeah.
We also get the moment of him saving Air Force One because the fucking engine explodes. And you also get the little moments. So you get a moment where he just simply saves a cat out of a tree. It's simple and effective. And you know what? That one gets me the most, I think, because it's him taking the opportunity to just help this little girl take a cat out of her tree. Like, he's not above the little things. He will absolutely help you in that sort of way. It's like, fuck, dude, what a hero. Like, what a nice guy.
That's one of my personal favorites too, but probably for an entirely different reason.
What's that?
So right after Superman saves the cat from the tree, the little girl goes into her house telling her mom that Superman just flew down to save the cat from the tree, and then the mom just tells her, "Haven't I told you to stop telling lies?" and then just slaps her, and then it cuts to the plane.
That is so funny. Yeah, it's just, haven't I told you to stop telling lies? It's like, god damn, okay.
Fucking Superman just goes on with his business.
Yeah, Jesus Christ. We have mentioning of rapists, we have a child's penis, we have a child getting beaten. What is this PG movie? Jesus Christ, 1978.
This ain't your grandma's Superman movie.
It is, though. My grandma was alive in 1978. Oh, but anyway, I also another I guess it is an emotional kind of moment because it's just such a very heartwarming moment. That being the scene when Lois is finally interviewing Superman, and you get the moment where they're flying above the city. Like, oh my god, what a great scene! And what I love
That's another scene that I love, but also for another entirely different.
Well, what I love about it is the fact that it's such a genuine scene. You get this moment where Superman is flying with Lois, and Lois gets her own inner monologue poem to say during the movie. It's like, holy shit, a character is reciting a poem in a Hollywood blockbuster, and we're taking it fully seriously. Like, you would never see that kind of genuineness in a modern Hollywood film.
I know a lot of people say that the poem is goofy. Hell, even some I've even seen some media just reference it or just jab at it a little bit. Which is perfectly fine.
Sure.
Fuck it, I still love it.
Oh, dude, I vibe so fucking hard with it where I'm just like, fuck yeah, dude. Like, it's so sincere. Like, again, I love how sincere this movie is. The fact that it will just do a scene like that and you take it fully seriously. I like the little moment where Superman drops her accidentally, whatever, and he's just like, well, I gotta save her. I'm like, that's cute. It's just a very cute and heartwarming scene. I love the sincerity in it.
Personally, I love the what I really like about this scene is that when Lois is interviewing Superman, she asks him what color her underwear is, but Superman can't see that because she's hiding behind lead. And then the moment she walks away from the lead, he says pink.
I mean, he's telling the truth. He can't tell a lie.
And then when you finally get back to their apartment, you see he wants to confess to her that he's Superman, but ultimately hesitates.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a nice little moment, but it's a great way to cap off that sequence.
Very sweet stuff.
Oh my god, yeah, super sweet. Do we want to talk about the climax? Because I got some things to say about the climax.
There are some people who hate the climax of this movie. I call them pussies.
Yeah.
Because first off, the climax is the one, it has Otisburg.
Sure.
10 out of 10.
10 out of 10, obviously.
Yeah. I would say, so one thing that I do want to talk about the climax is the lead up to the climax, where the more that I watch it, the more that I love it. Where it's like this whole sequence of Luthor, Eve, and Otis trying to hijack the missile, and they have to do it again because Otis screws up the vectors.
Yeah, that's funny.
Yep. And it also explains how we get into this mess. But also then after that, you have Perry trying to grill Clark about how he needs to have more guts to his game because, Clark in the Daily Planet acts very clumsily, naturally. It doesn't try getting it on, which in this movie, at least, he tries using it as a cover. I know other Superman media tries making the Clark identity more genuine. I don't really care which media does it, but this is what we're doing for this movie. And then, while Perry's talking, Luthor uses a very special frequency to talk to Superman and tell him, this is Lex Luthor. In a matter of moments, Detonator is going to spread gas all over Metropolis in 5 minutes. Better find it.
Yeah. Great use of the frequency.
Superman,
that's clever.
Yeah, then Superman tries finding the frequency, drilling underground, then finds Luthor's secret hideout. You also have another one of my favorite bits where Luthor tells Otis to take Superman's cape, and he goes up to Superman before going, Mr. Luthor, I don't think he wants me to take his cape.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, right after that, you have Superman going, all right, Luthor, where's the bomb? And then Luthor's like, oh, it's here somewhere in the back of my mind. Actually, it's a little idea I was toying with, and like that is fucking raw.
Yeah, totally cool.
Like the fact that he can just tease Superman with an idea of something horrible that's going on in his head. Superman asks him right after, is this how you get your sick kicks? By plotting the deaths of innocent people? And then Luthor coldly responds with, no. By taking the lives of innocent people.
Yeah. He's such a dick. It's great.
By causing the deaths of innocent people.
Yeah.
It's so good.
Yeah. So good. So good.
And then we finally see Luthor's whole big scheme unravel, where he bought a bunch of deserts secretly that Lois is trying to investigate, so that's why she's there during the climax.
Mm-hmm.
Very good reasoning.
Yeah.
And then we get the reason for the missile's hijack. Luthor is going to use one of the missiles to set off a massive tumor, so that way a bunch of California is replaced with his own beachfront.
Yeah, the villain's ultimate goal in this movie is to blow up California, which I'm not saying he's right. I don't disagree with it, I'll say that. I'm kidding.
Fucking current day Californian shit.
Yeah. But no, I love that. He just wants beachfront property, so he's going to blow up part of California, and then he's going to have all this. Like, that's so specifically evil, but I love that.
Some people meditate, I go into real estate.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And then to top it all off, he literally kills a man from somewhere else in the world just to get a chunk of kryptonite, where we get another raw line. You're regretting your days, Superman. But it just stands to reason that, but when it came time to cash into your chips, it just stands to reason that this diseased maniac would be your banker.
Yeah. Hackman, my God. Like, what a talent.
And this was after he tricked Superman into thinking that there was any detonator at all.
Yeah.
So good.
So good, yeah. And then he just has the kryptonite. He uses it on Superman, weakens him. It's great.
Throws him in a hole.
Throws him in his inexplicable pool he has. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah. And to top it all off, he's sending the other missile to Hackensack, New Jersey. Which honestly deserved a fuck that state's drivers.
Which, yeah. Okay, again, I don't agree with the methods, but blowing up New Jersey, I don't blame him. Well, what I love about that scene, I actually wrote this down in my notes. Yeah, I love the way that Tessmacher responds to that by saying, wait, Lex, my mother's in Hackensack, New Jersey. And the way he just looks at his watch and looks back up and just shakes his head, you go, oh, that's cold. Like, he could have said something smarmy. No, he chose to just, like, look at his watch and just shake his head and walk away like, nope, not going to happen. Like, holy shit. Like, that rules.
So fucking good.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. So shaking his head nonchalantly, like, whatever. Yeah. It's like, fuck, dude. What a baddie.
And this is what convinces Teschmacher to finally save Superman.
Mm-hmm.
He first stops a missile in Hackensack since he promised Teschmacher that he would.
Mm-hmm.
But the missile in California hits, which causes this massive tremor, and then we get this epic sequence of Superman saving people. Like, he literally acts as a rail for the train.
That's great.
He saves Jimmy from the dam blowing up. He carves a whole path out of water to just prevent a massive... He even goes to the center of the earth to stop the tremors from getting any worse. It's so good.
Yeah, it's a great sequence. It's so exciting. The one thing he can't do is save Lois.
Yep. We get to the car after she gets buried, and after digging and digging, he finds her lifeless corpse, and it just holds no music.
Yeah.
Just complete silence before he screams into the air and flies up.
Yeah. That's a great moment.
So wrong.
That's a great moment, yeah, because you're killing off a major character. So it's like, oh, fuck. Consequences. There were actual high tension stakes here. Like, what a great moment. And yeah, it's like the one time you get Superman genuinely angry, too. Like, Superman angry, I can't imagine. Well, I mean, I can. Man of Steel. But what I mean by that is, like, when I think of my favorite Supermans, I can't imagine him as this angry individual. Like, yeah, there are moments where he gets pissed, like this, for example. But, like, when you have those moments so rare, it really affects you, where it's like, okay, when it does happen, it means shit is, like, really real here. Like, holy shit, he's pissed that he wasn't able to save her.
Yeah, it's like in Marvel when Spider-Man stops talking and joking with his opponents. When a villain makes Superman mad, they fucked up big time.
Yeah, and that's what makes that moment where he's just screaming all the more, like, intense. It's like, shit, man, this is really, really something. Which then leads into the elephant in the room when it comes to this movie. Let's put it that way.
The whole turning back the Earth.
Yes.
To undo the tremor and save Lois.
Yes. So
I understand the one problem with this. Why didn't he do this before?
Yeah.
Which is fair.
Fair. I will say I've actually softened up on this little detail. I know people have said, oh, it's one of the dumbest moments in a superhero movie, one of the dumbest Superman moments. I disagree entirely from the shit I've seen. But
the more that I've watched this movie, the more that I've actually really grown to really love how it's all wrapped up.
I think you go ahead.
Okay, so it's Superman flying up into the air after he couldn't save Lois, and before deciding to turn back the time, he's confronted with his vision of Jordan, warning him to not intervene with Earth Fairs and how it works, to just use his power to, not mess with the nature of Earth, which, partly explains why he didn't do this before, but then he sees vision of John telling him, look, I know you were brought onto Earth for a reason, to do amazing things, and it was this advice from John where he pulled a miracle and reversed Earth just enough to save Lois from horrible tragedy and to undo the damage that Luthor's done. It's not something that he would just do every single time, which we will get to with Superman 2, trust me. But the fact that he did this at all as like a last moment resort, I think is like super powerful for his character. Like, I don't like Snyder cuts. I don't like the Snyder cut of Justice League at all, but I think this is how people felt about that moment with Flash in the climax. I can relate to it.
Yeah, and I'll say this. I think it comes at a moment where after the whole movie, again, this is a character he cares very deeply for, and he wasn't able to save her in time. Something that harkens back to Jonathan Kent. It's like, he died and I have all these powers and I couldn't save him. So I think at this point in the movie, it's happened all over again. He had all these powers. He couldn't save Lois, to the point that he's just like, no, fuck this. I can't live with this decision. Like, I need her back. And so then it's a moment for the movie to give the main character a moment of clarity. Like, hey, you know what? We'll throw you a bone. You can go back in time and save Lois. I will say, logically, it doesn't make sense, because it's just like, oh, I'm going to spin the Earth around, and that causes time travel. It's like, yeah, logically speaking, that sucks. It's so stupid. Yeah. But emotionally speaking, from an emotional standpoint, from that perspective, I'm fine with it because it works. The emotions are intense. It works well. You're giving Superman a happy ending. Again, it's a fantasy movie. So you know what? If you're willing to suspend logic for the emotional needs of the character, I'm fine with that, because the movie earns that.
Yeah, I was going to say, even if logically, no, the Earth wouldn't just reverse time if it spun around. It's a man in red underwear flying across the world with super strength. I'm not exactly going to a Superman
Yeah.
story for fucking logic arguments. That's dumb.
Right. Now, I will
I want
say,
to say you're watching movies wrong.
well, say,
But you're watching movies wrong.
you're watching movies. I will say, sometimes these movies do pull some logistical problems where I'm like, all right, that's too far. I feel like with this one, I'm willing to forgive it because, again, like I said, the emotional moments are intense. It works well for the character. And plus, it's like, okay, super speed. He goes back in time by going the other way. It's like, sure, I'll buy that. You know, I'll buy it enough. So I don't mind it. I think it's a good moment. I like it. I'm fine with it. Is it a little schmaltzy? Sure, but I think it toes the line just perfectly that it's fine.
Right, it's like poetry, it rhymes.
Exactly.
And then after that whole magnificent sequence, the ending never drags. It's just perfectly paced. You see him meeting Lois again one last time for the movie, knowing that her and Jimmy are all right, that everyone's all right, and then immediately sending Otis to prison.
Yeah.
Giving Teschmacher a bit of mercy for saving him, and Lex finally goes bald, baby.
Yeah. Perfect.
The fact that Gene Hackman was able to play most of this movie with his hair intact, masterclass gambit, my good sir.
Yeah, good for you, dude. Good for you.
Yeah. And then you get the scene where the warden congratulates him, and he tells him, we're all on the same side. And then you get that awesome shot with him saluting the camera, flying off, roll credits. Fucking amazing.
Yeah, great ending. Great ending shot of him flying out into space. Yeah, it's perfect. I am annoyed that every movie afterwards uses it, but we'll get to those. It works well in this movie, yes.
For sure. So, that was Superman 1978, and literally both of us going all, because why wouldn't we just gush about every single moment in the movie just being so good?
It's kind of the perfect superhero movie. Like, obviously I have superhero movies that I love more than this one. I think are more iconic, mean more to me. Unfortunately, they are Batman and Spider-Man movies.
Right.
You know, I mean, because the Dark Knight and Spider-Verse are just... I respect those beyond the fact that they're superhero movies. I love them for other reasons.
Yeah,
but
I can't even blame you.
Yeah, but
like,
I still...
Spider-Verse, peak shit.
Peak shit, yeah, of course. I will say, though, this one, I think it is... I have no qualms calling it one of the most perfect superhero movies because they got it so right off the bat. It's such a good Superman movie. You know, Reeve as Superman is up there as one of, like, I do have my issues with his later films, but no matter what, every time I see him in the suit, I'm like, that's Superman.
Yep. And just perfect versions of the characters all around. The only one I'm kind of just fine with is, you know, Jackie Cooper as Jimmy Olsen. That's just mainly because
it's Mark McClure as Jimmy Olsen.
Yeah, he just doesn't appear in this film too much.
Yeah,
also, there's just other pieces of Superman media that just use Jimmy way better, and I think aside from obviously Clark and Lois, he's one of my favorite DC characters. I love him usually. Yeah. So
I like Mark McClure as Jimmy Olsen. Yeah, he's not in it a lot, so you can't really say he's my favorite. Yeah, it's whatever. But I like him. He's the older brother in Back to the Future. Fun fact.
Oh,
Marty, I always wear a suit to the office.
I need to get back to the Future movies sometime. I still got the trilogy on DVD.
Oh, so good. I want to talk a little bit about the DVD before we get into Superman 2, though.
Right.
Because for the foreseeable couple of episodes, I have a bunch of the Reeve Superman movies on DVD and this Superman Collector's Edition from 2006. And it's pretty cool. It comes in like this steel box. And I just wanted to talk a little bit about this because we're going to be talking about these movies later on because all these movies are on DVD.
Just a heads up, I also own the 4K collector's edition for all the Reeve movies.
Yeah,
not Returns, but the first 4 movies. You fine with me talking about those in the episodes as well?
Yeah, of course, absolutely. In fact, I'm going to need you to talk about them to convince me because so far these DVDs have let me down. So they're staying in the collection is not looking too good. I'll say that.
I remember hearing that you couldn't get either DVDs of Superman 1 working.
So Superman 1, I put the disc in. So this is the theatrical cut. So disc 1, there's like 14 discs in this collector's edition. 14. Disc 1 I put in. The Blu-ray player doesn't even read it. It's just like it's trying to read it. It's just like we can't play this. Like it cannot play disc. It's not reading. It's like fucking Christ. All right. So then I go to disc 2. Disc 2 has the extended edition. So I watched like the first half of the extended edition, and that's the one where like it says like, oh, the little girl on the train was Lois Lane. It's like that's kind of lame, but whatever. So I started watching it, and then that disc just stopped. It just stopped and scratched and would just like kind of skip around. It's like, all right, disc 2, no good. So I had to watch the rest of the movie on HBO Max, which we can call it HBO Max now. How about that?
And regarding the extended and TV cuts of Superman 1978, let me just say this, since I do want to talk about them a bit. I have seen the TV cut in full, 3-hour version, which is basically all the extended version, just with more stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I have some very choice words for it.
Like this and sucks.
Yes, very much. I do not like the TV cut of 1978 at all. So basically, with the extended cuts of Superman 1978, they were basically a lot of deleted stuff wedged into the movies. Because here's the thing, Donner had full editing control over the theatrical cut of Superman. So the theatrical cut of the movie is the way that Richard Donner and it to be. He had full control over. The extended versions of the movie have scenes that were put in without Donner's permission, scenes that he cut out. And let me just say, most of the time he cut them out for very good.
Yeah, pacing reasons.
Yeah, like the pacing for the 78 movie is total garbage. Well, the TV cut, especially. Yeah. And obviously the dumbest part of it is little Lois Lane on the train. So not only is he, especially because she's a kid and Clark's a teen, it makes their relationship way worse in the TV cut.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense because they're the same age when they're adults. So it's like, what are we doing here?
Yeah. And if they're not, then you have the age gap, which is yikes.
It's also just a really weird moment where the father's just like, oh, Lois Lane, you little rapscallion. It's like, why would you say... What an odd thing to say. Why would you say your kid's full name on the train like that?
Yeah, literally the only value in that scene is apparently Lois's dad and mom are played by the actors of Clark and Lois in, I think, the 1937 show or radio show.
Really?
So I learned that from the documentary. That was a detail. There's also other pointless shit that was added, like an executioner on Krypton that goes for some reason.
There was this weird moment where there's like this weird executioner and like the council's just like, oh, go see Jor-El and execute him. It's like, well, we know we know they all don't survive, so this is entirely pointless.
Right. You also have in retrospect, a super pointless scene where Jor-El warns Clark not to expose himself too much or keep his powers a secret. But it's what makes it really bad is that right after that he has his interview with. So that scene with Jor-El was cut for a very good reason.
Yeah, it's for crying out loud.
In the TV cut, in the extended cut, Luthor has a piano that he likes to play, and he feeds meat to lions that he has in a little den that are entirely off screen.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
And,
funny.
Like, at the very end of the movie, before he gets arrested, he tries feeding Teschmacher to them, which makes it very confusing when Teschmacher goes back to help Luthor.
Yeah. That's Yeah, that's dumb.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of funny, but the movie doesn't need those scenes, you know?
Yeah.
For good reason.
But I think the worst part it commits is ruining the pacing of a lot of the jokes that the theatrical cut had.
Oof.
There's probably multiple instances of this but the one that I go back to the most is when Otis puts Luthor's robe on while he's still in the tub.
Yeah.
In the theatrical cut, Otis realizes his mistake. It's a hard cut. It's so funny. In the TV cut, it just drags.
Ugh.
And I think they do this like multiple times. It's so lame. So always stick with the theatrical cut of 1978.
Definitely.
And thankfully, thankfully Warner Brothers agrees, which I'm very grateful for. Avoid the extended cuts.
Yeah, I think it'd be cool to like check them out every once in a while. But yeah, if I whenever I go back to this movie, it will always be the theatrical cut.
Yeah, which is also a very good reason why you should the 4K of Superman 1978. Wink, wink, wink. That only has the theatrical cut, and on top of that, you have the choice between the Dolby Atmos audio and the original theater audio. So if you're a purist, I don't think it's perfect, but it definitely, I do think it has a little bit more oomph to it.
Sure. You know what I mean. Yeah. Well, I won't decide if I want the 4K just yet. I have to go through all the movies on this collector's edition. Just because the first few discs didn't work doesn't mean I can't get rid of it. You know, maybe the rest of them work. You know, who knows? I'll make my decision a couple episodes from now.
Did your Superman 3 DVDs work?
No. Not yet, Minion. Not yet.
Superman 4 will be the lucky one, trust me.
You had other things you wanted to say about the 4K?
Yes. On the Blu-ray side of the 4K, you have some really good extras, like the documentary that I was talking about, as well as some TV spots, the TV spot, the teaser, and the theatrical trailer. All of which I think were really good and kind of highlights the difference between a lot of what was back then and the trailers we get nowadays. The teaser especially is just the cast listing for the movie, and it feels oddly ominous in a good way. But I think by far the best extra features in the movie. 3 Superman-themed Looney Tunes shorts.
Hell yeah.
2 of them were fun. 2 of them were fun. Wasn't a big fan of Snafuperman.
Yeah.
It feels like a slur when I say it.
Snafuperman was that was the extra cartoon they had on the Fleischer DVD that I talked about last episode, and yeah, it's not good. The Bugs Bunny and Daffy Duck ones though, those are fun.
Yeah. This one also has Super Rabbit and Stupor Duck, and both of them gold.
Oh, they're so peak.
In a lot of ways, Stupor Duck is a lot like Mega Man Legends 2. They gotta get him off the moon. Yeah. But by far the best extra feature that I think this 4K has on the Blu-ray side is it features a whole nother movie on it. It has the Superman versus the Mole Men movie starring George Reeve.
Ooh, I love shit like that. That's awesome.
Yep. So I think that would be an interesting watch sometime. I still need to watch it myself, but I'm very interested too.
Yeah. Oh, this 4K sounds awesome. No. I have it on DVD. I have to keep the collector's set for now, of course.
Yeah.
Oh, but that 4K sounds awesome.
Yeah. Personally, for me, this goes for the whole 4K set, but if I just had to get the movies alone and just go with, do I keep Superman 1978 on 4K? Yes, no questions about it, no fucking doubt. A super awesome collection for a super awesome movie. I can't recommend it enough.
A super awesome movie about a Superman. Oh, how about that?
I think I mentioned before that Superman 1 and 2 filmed right alongside each other, so
Yes.
yeah, let's get into that.
Let's get into Superman 2, advertised at the ending of Superman 1. Yeah, it was cool. Like at the end of the credits it said next year Superman 2. It's like, well, that was a fucking lie because Superman 1 was 78, Superman 2 wasn't until 1980. Get your story straight, Warner Brothers.
I know there was like another show that they did some. There was like a show that Saber Spark covered, and they did a similar thing with Shrek the Third.
Oh, really?
It was going to come out in 2006, came out the next year instead.
Yeah. SMH. But yeah, Superman 2. I want to stick to the theatrical cut first.
Yeah, theatrical cut. Okay. Oh boy, So you thought I had choice words for the extended cut. I can start Superman 2 with just 3 very simple words. Fuck Richard Lester. I hate this man's guts so much, and I have been filled with hate and malice for the past hour before recording.
Yeah.
Oh god.
Yeah, Superman 2 so far is probably the biggest disappointment. I probably hate Superman 3 more, but I will say Superman 2 has been the biggest disappointment in when it comes to this Superman summer, the summer of Superman. Purely because I've always had my issues with it. I think the last time I rewatched it, I was like, it's fun. It's not that bad. But rewatching it this time, Superman 2, especially the theatrical cut. We'll get into the Donner cut a little later. I really was kind of disappointed by a lot of this. And I think even with the Donner cut, which I do think is better, I think there's a lot of issues at the skeletal structure of Superman 2 that leave me going, I don't think this would ever work for me.
Right. I do kind of want to talk about the production stuff because the important thing that I will consider with a lesser cut of Superman 2 is that I think it is a fine movie. I do not care because as a product, I absolutely loathe it. So basically, Donner was supposed to direct both Superman 1 and 2. Since they were being filmed side by side, but Donner had a bit of conflicting interests with the producers, and eventually Richard Lester was brought on as a co-producer just to mediate relations between them. But the straw that broke the camel's back is the Salkinds, who are the main producers, firing Donner
right.
after Alexander Salkind got the film rights to Man, not just because they weren't keeping in touch, but because they didn't want to pay, they wanted to cut out Marlon Brando's scenes because he wanted a cut of the profits from the movie for him playing Jor-El, and they didn't want to pay him for it at all. So Donner had to leave.
Yeah.
Because he was not on board with that at all.
Yeah.
So then Lester got the director's role and then was like, Donner's style isn't really my style, so I'm just going to film and rewrite a bunch of that. Just so he can get a fucking director's credit.
Yeah.
When he was initially just supposed to do cleanup and reshoots.
Well, because looking at it, just because I was expecting the Donner cut to be really different. It uses a lot of what Richard Donner already filmed, and so I realized, there's several differences, absolutely. Like you watch Donner and the Donner cut and the Lester cut, they're very different movies, but I feel like there's a lot of scenes that were in the Lester cut that were already in the Donner cut. You know,
Well, that's
it
that's
wasn't
actually
it
the
wasn't
thing
yeah, it
with
wasn't as different as say like the Snyder cut compared to the theatrical Justice League. You know, like I feel like there's much bigger differences between those two than there are Donner and Lester, which
Well,
does.
there's a reason for that if I can go into it super quick.
Please.
So basically, the Donner cut released in 2006. The Donner cut still had a good chunk of footage intact.
Mhm.
The scenes that he shot.
Yeah.
This was because when it was released in 2006, they couldn't really do any more reshoots, and Reeve passed at the time.
Yeah.
So what they had to do was still working with some of Lester's footage while digging up scenes that Donner shot that were in test screenings and such.
Yeah.
But Lester's cut of Superman 2 only used 30% of Donner's footage, and that was only because Hackman refused to return for any Lester's reshoots.
Right.
A lot of the reshoots in general were just kind of annoying for a lot of the cast because of how he chose to film stuff over Donner. And you'll learn this more when going through the other films, but also fuck the Salkinds, because especially when Donner got fired, Hackman and Kidder were very vocal about their distaste with Lester and the Salkinds. Pretty much all the cast hated Lester especially, which explains how Superman 3 turned out as she did. And not only did Hackman refuse to return for Superman 3, but also because Kidder was very public about her protests, the Salkinds basically punished her. And then on the 2006 DVD for Superman 3, Ilya Salkind had the fucking gall to just straight up say that, oh, everything's completely fine. There's like no conflict between any of us. Trust me. Just super scummy shit.
Yeah.
I genuinely, my blood boils every time I see Super behind the scenes, because it could have been a really great successor to the first film.
Yeah.
And now it never will be because of horrendous corporate meddling.
Yeah, but it just shows you that, you know, the Snyder Cut debacle was not the first time this happened under Warner Brothers' watchful eye. Like, shit like this was always happening. It's just people didn't complain about this back in the day because we didn't have the internet. We didn't have access to any of this. Like, nobody knew anything about this. So when Superman 2 came along and it's like directed by Richard Lester, everyone was like, yeah, okay, sure, why not?
Yeah.
But yeah, that does sound annoying. That sounds obnoxious.
And it just makes it super extra gross when watching like the documentary for it. Because unlike the first movie, I didn't even really take in or learn anything special about the filmmaking process for 2. It's just didn't have Donner at all, propping up Lester as like the sole creative mind behind. Just so gross.
Yeah, that sucks, because you know what, and I'd be willing to forgive it if the movie itself was fun or it had moments that made it, you know, enjoyable. And I really just did not get that with the Lester cut upon rewatch. I realized, no, the issues I have with this movie, a lot of them are skeletal. Like, even if Donner was able to get the version he wanted, I'd probably still have a lot of issues with it. But I think one thing I very much noticed is the pacing is unbelievably bad in the Lester cut.
Yeah.
Like you look at a lot of the scenes filmed for the Lester cut, and then you look at the Donner cut. The Donner cut had scenes that were like trimmed down. You had a lot of things trimmed down where like it felt like a movie. You know, there's a lot of stuff I disagreed with and I didn't like, but at least I could acknowledge, oh, this feels like it's paced it like a movie. Like, oh, it's directed by a guy who directs movies. Richard Donner, you know, he has more than just Superman under his belt. He's been around.
I have my issues with some of the edits in the Donner cut, but like everything in the Lester cut, it just drags with so much pointless shit.
It's much worse than the Lester cut. There's so much going on, and it's paced horribly. We're in, like, first of all, the opening credits in the Lester cut are god awful because they're reusing scenes from the first movie as if we'd forget what happened, you know, and it's paced horribly. Like, it just feels like they're padding out the runtime of this cut by just reusing scenes. Unlike in the Donner cut, when they reuse scenes during the credits in the Donner cut, it's for a reason. It's to kind of catch the audience up and also showing how Zod and his cronies kind of affect in this movie story, you know, how they kind of affect the plot. You know, it's still kind of annoying by replaying a lot of scenes from one, but it's done so in a way that makes sense. Whereas here, you're just padding out the runtime. Like, Richard Lester has the means to make it work, and he doesn't. Like, this guy does not have a style, you know? He does not have the sauce. He just has all these scenes plopped on his lap, and he just looks at people being like, what the fuck am I supposed to do with this? It's like, you're the director. Direct.
Yeah. And it's like super weird because I've seen his portfolio on Letterboxd. A lot of his Beatles movies are well received. So I'm like, okay, I haven't watched those, but like, what the fuck happened here?
What the fuck happened?
Yeah. Like, it opens up with this really pointless and, dare I say, sauceless scene showing what Zod, Ursa, and Non-Committed get banished to the Phantom Zone. And it's like, it's nothing. It's literally nothing.
Conveniently, Jarrell's not in that scene. Suspicious.
Yeah, gee, I wonder why. It can't be for any scummy reason whatsoever.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then just right after that, you have the whole terrorist sequence, which is just in Paris, which is just really pointless.
Very much
and just
so.
serve to just push back Lois' whole character arc out the fucking movie, which I will get to, but oh my god.
It's a very pointless sequence because at least in the Donner cut, it's revealed, you know, you have the Superman pushing the missile from the first movie up into space, and that's what gets them out of the Phantom Zone.
Right.
So, like, it's still awfully convenient that, the Phantom Zone just so happened to be spinning near Earth at that time. But, like, at least it connects to the first movie. Like, there's still... It feels like, you know, the events of the first movie go into the second one. It flows much better. Whereas here, it's just, there's a terrorist plot in Paris, and he takes a bomb, and he throws it into space. It's like, okay, you're just getting to the same conclusion, just with extra steps that don't really add anything.
Right.
And one of the terrorists is played by Uncle Dursley from Harry Potter. No terrorism on Sunday.
Woohoo!
Fun fact. Anyway, sorry, go ahead.
Okay, so then after all that pointless shit, you have like the main plot of the movie, I guess, where Clark and Lois are sent to investigate a honeymoon scandal.
Mm-hmm.
And in the Lester cut, when the kid jumps off the rail and Superman swoops in and Lois notices that Clark is missing, this is what sets off her arc of suspecting Clark. And
yeah.
I have lots of issues with how this whole arc Lester cut. But first of all, this happens way later than it does in the cut, and it just feels super off. Like it's just reducing Lois's agency throughout this film. That's so lame.
It's weird because in the Donner cut, I feel like that's how we should go tackle Superman 2 from now on, is just kind of comparing the Lester cut with the Donner cut.
Right.
I will say I do like it better in the Donner cut because you have the moment where they're at the Daily Planet and she kind of looks at Clark, and I love the movement of the camera in the Donner cut. It's like, this actually feels like it's being shot like a movie, you know, the camera moving. And I like how she takes the Sharpie and she starts scribbling like glasses over the picture of Superman in the newspaper. It's like, okay,
that's really cute.
That's cute. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, then she constantly teases Clark about whether he's Superman or not.
Mm-hmm.
And then when Perry walks out of the room, she tries to jump out of the building.
Yeah, it's weird because you're just like, oh, I'm gonna kill myself, Superman. It's like, whoa. But it does play into Lois as like this, you know, kind of insane person, but you know, for journalistic integrity, it's like, okay, I can kind of buy it. No, it shows that Lois, right from the get-go, this is Lois's arc. She's trying to figure this out. It's a really great scene. I love that scene of the Donner cut. It's so good. And it's cute.
Comparing,
yeah.
If we're going to just go on with the comparing, I will say just right off the bat, Donner cut is way better than the Lester cut in my opinion. I have some really big issues, especially on rewatch, but at the end of the day, I personally think it's still a solid and great movie, even if it's more of a proof of concept than anything else.
I mean, it feels like a movie, even though it's edited weirdly, because because they do have moments where they're using like 2006 era CGI and stock footage in a movie that was obviously filmed in the late 70s, but like, it feels more like a movie than the Lester cut does.
Right. And on top of that, the Donner cut has one of my top 10 favorite Lois bits of all time, where she finally really tries to grill Clark for the Superman identity in the apartment, and then she pulls out a gun.
Yeah. I feel like that must have been a screen test. Because of the way that Clark kind of changes outfits in that scene. You know, in one shot, he has like a full head of black hair, and then like in the next shot, it's like a 180 shot. It's him with like slick back black hair.
Right.
Yeah, it must have been like screen test. Yeah, so that's weird. But the scene itself, I think, is done very well. Like, it's acted perfectly. And yeah, again, it shows Lois being kind of kooky, but for journalistic integrity and for the fact that she is confident in what she believes in.
Yeah, and like the best part about it is that Lois pulls the trigger, the gun goes off, and Clark just stumbles a bit while still standing, and then Lois is like, "You really are Superman."
Yeah.
And then Clark just straight up drops the act, and goes, "You know, if you were wrong, Clark Kent would have been dead." And then Lois says, "With a blank."
Yeah, which also says a little bit about Clark in that sense. You know, it just shows him that like, oh, you know, he actually fell for the gun being pulled on him, and how he just doesn't want people to get hurt because he knows, he would get shot and be fine, but he doesn't realize that, you know, it was a blank. Yeah, it's a great moment. I like that infinitely more than, oh, he tripped and fell into the fire and didn't get burned, and Lois is like, "Oh, you're Superman." He's like, "Yeah, I'm Superman." It's like, oh
my god, I fucking hate that bit in the Lester cut so much. God forbid women have any agency, I swear to God.
Yeah. No, he trip and fall because he clumsy. Superman clumsy. He fall in fire.
Oh my god. And
yeah.
The fact that right after that, they just do a worse version of the building bit where Lois just jumps in. Then you have this stupid sequence. I hate it.
Well, that happens before the fire. Yeah, where she jumps into the water. It's stupid. Yeah, it's not exciting. It's not excitingly shot. It looks lame. Yeah, it's just a really dumb sequence. I much prefer the sequences done so in the Donner cut. Like, they are much better. They're filmed weirdly because they're not technically finished, but I much prefer them. I think they're much better encapsulations of these characters and how they treat each other than the Lester cut.
100%.
Yeah. Also, when the kid falls in Niagara Falls, it's so obviously a dummy. I wrote that down. In both cuts. I
noticed it. That's so
but
funny.
It's cute. I'm fine with that. Whatever. Oh, and also during the Niagara Falls scene, I have to bring this up. There's in both cuts, by the way, so they kept this in where Superman saves the kid. He's flying up, and there's just some random woman in Niagara Falls that just goes, "Oh, Superman, what a nice guy. Of course he's Jewish." It's like, what? What does that have to do with anything? What? Hold on. It's
like, oh my god, he is playing Superman.
Yeah, it's like Israel playing Superman. I can't believe Superman got his PC before Israel PC. Oh, he's so pissed right now that we're mentioning this.
Oh dear God. Oh, may God have mercy on your soul.
Yeah.
And now, in some ways, a PC is similar to a robot, and in that sense, you're similar to the robot right now. What you just said was fucking wild, dude.
Are you quoting something?
Yeah, I'm quoting you.
Oh, you're quoting me. I'm so stupid. Oh, you guys and your running jokes. I can't keep up with them. Oh yeah, okay. So let's talk about Luther returned in this movie.
Yeah, so in both cuts, Luthor is the most unchanged because, like I said, Hackman refused to return for any of Lester's reshoots.
Sure.
And, in retrospect, Hackman's the best part of the movie now.
Yeah.
Like, by far.
He really is, yeah, because he keeps up. I always got the feeling that I feel like at this point Hackman, not that he hated being Lex Luthor, but it really felt as though he didn't want to necessarily be there. Like he had kind of served his purpose in the first movie. It's like, okay, just bringing him back is just because he was such a popular character.
Yeah, I even read up on like the Superman 3. Hackman was been about wanting to be Luthor for like almost all the films. It's like a horror franchise villain that just keeps on coming back and back.
Okay.
Freddy Krueger or Jason Voorhees, something like that.
Okay.
And my crack pipe theory is that he did return for 4. Even if that was a bit of a disaster, he still had fun filming it with Christopher Reeve and everyone.
Okay.
Just didn't return for 3 because he fucking hated Richard Lester.
Right, so. Yeah. Okay, so I might be making that up. I don't know. I just always got the feeling he didn't want to necessarily be there. But I don't know. Even still, he's a professional actor. Yeah, he is easily the best part of this movie because, I mean, it's Gene Hackman as Lex Luthor. Such a fun character. And I love his dynamic with Zod, which we can get into later. But yeah, I do like how he's still a bit of a scumbag in this one, even in small moments.
The best part of the movie by far is all the prison stuff because it still has the God Amongst Men in it.
Yeah, there's Otis, who's too fat to escape. How cruel is that?
He literally drags the fucking balloon down as he walks on the ladder.
Yeah.
How does bro even do that?
Yeah, and then Lex simply kicks off the ladder and they fly away. Like, which is so in character for Lex. He cares very little for Otis. I love that. It's so cruel. But it is a shame because then we don't get any more Otis after that. He's literally not in the rest of the movie.
Yeah, one of my favorite parts in like the Donner cut that the Lester cut out was when Luthor tells Otis about one of the weather. Then Otis repeats it, and then when shoving the shirts back in, 10 prison members right in front of his face.
Yeah. Great moment. So funny. Yeah.
Also, Otis doing the little bunny ears on.
Yeah,
it's really funny.
Yeah, that's cute. Like little moments like that are great. I love that.
Yeah.
What I don't like is how Lex and Teskmacher just find Superman's home, just cause. I get it. They explain, the alpha waves or whatever lead them to it. It's like,
yeah, they mentioned that they keep on finding out that waves keep on going up.
Yeah.
Aside from like Zod, just finding out about Zod and then leading him to the Fortress of Solitude. I just don't think that they use the concept very well.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like I like it better than the Donner cut where Jor-El kind of talks about Zod randomly just to be like, oh yeah, by the way, there's this Phantom Zone and whatnot. Like, yeah, that kind of makes sense. And then Luthor goes, oh, I would love to meet these people. And then he just so happens to meet them later on. It's like, okay, that's at least, it's still dumb, but whatever. In the Lester cut, it's Lara explaining like, oh, if this were to happen, hypothetically, like they explode and they escape the Phantom Zone and then this happens. It's like, what are we doing? Like this is stupid. What, like, hypothetically they escape the Phantom Zone? I don't know. It's explained much worse in the Lester cut.
Yeah. Also, the Donner cut has a bathroom joke.
Oh, dude, I found it.
It's so good.
Miss Tessmacher finds Superman's toilet. Incredible cinema.
And the fact that this is where she last appears in the movie. This is her last appearance in the movie.
Oh yeah.
So we can just assume that she's just that she's just still in the bathroom.
She got locked in the bathroom. Yeah. Yeah. See, that's funny. Yeah, that's funny. I like that. Whereas, yeah, I don't know. Which is weird because then there's a lot of more goofy moments in the Lester cut. It's like, okay, why wouldn't they include the bathroom joke in this one? I don't know. Whatever.
And the weird part is that the goofy parts in the Lester cut aren't even that funny.
Well, yeah, that's one of the biggest crimes. Which that's more so in the climax. We'll get to that.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Zod though and his hired goons.
Okay. Yeah. This kind of leads me to what I can say about the character of General Zod in general. Now, I'm a very big Superman fan. So what do I think of one of Superman's most iconic foes? I don't like him.
Really?
I do not like Zod at all.
Okay.
I am not a Zod fan. For multiple reasons, which I can also a bit into Man of Steel at some point.
Sure.
Basically, my main issue with Zod is that pretty much in media and the comics, he's always used in the exact same plot. He gets out of the Phantom Zone. He wants to rule over Earth. Superman has to fight over remaining because of how corrupt he is. Yada, yada, yada. It's tired. It's played out. And then you have cases like Man of Steel where the framing is just genuinely fun with Krypton had its chance.
Krypton had its chance.
Genuinely the worst scene in a Superman movie, in my opinion.
Yeah.
We'll get to that.
I will say, so I feel like Terrence Stamp's version is very iconic. I mean, obviously so, because Doug Walker plays him so much so in the Nostalgia Critic skits.
Right.
This is probably one of my bigger hot takes. I might prefer the Michael Shannon Zod over this Zod. I get why this character is iconic in this movie. And I do like Terrence Stamp. I feel like he's a little too boring in this movie. I think he's a little better in the Donner cut. I don't know, just something about him in certain scenes. It felt as though Terrence Stamp was a little bored, and I really don't want to see that in an over-the-top performance. Like, he seems like a character who would just be like this over-the-top Shakespearean villain, and sometimes he can get very bored in this movie, and it's kind of distracting where it's like, I'm supposed to love this character because he's like this over-the-top villain, you know?
Yeah. And like, I get that, because not only did Shannon obviously have more compelling and sympathetic elements in spite of Man of Steel's shortcomings, but also just a baller performance from Shannon.
I will find him!
Superman 2, Zod just wants to conquer Earth because.
Yeah, which I'm fine with because it's a comic book villain. Like, sure, he just wants to conquer Earth. I'm fine with that. That's what he was arrested for in the first place. He wanted to conquer Krypton. But yeah, I think when it comes to villains in a Superman movie especially, you had Lex Luthor in the last movie, who is really good. You know, yes, you have a really cool looking character and you have a okay performance. You need more than that, though, than just, I want to take over Earth just cause.
Right. And I also kind of blame this movie for popularizing General Zod as much as they did, because before the comics, General Zod was just another Phantom Zoner. He was part of a bunch of evil Kryptonians in the Phantom. And I kind of hate that Zod got as popular as he did, because not only is his niche as a Kryptonian villain fulfilled way better, other media, and especially in the comics, Joxer and the Phantom King, the literal king of the Phantom Zone, the first Kryptonian sent there, mind you, but also every single other role that Zod fills whether it's symbol of fascism, megalomaniacal conqueror, even someone who sort of raised a kid that Superman eventually adopts in the comics. Pretty much anything that Zod does in the comics, Mongol does better, like miles better. And overall, I just think that Zod's just a really lame villain, and I think I'm at a point where, I can kind of understand the opinion that Snyder had a more interesting take on Zod than what Donner.
Yeah, I much prefer Michael Shannon as Zod. I can get some fun out of Terrence Stamp, but not that much. I don't know. I just feel like I feel like it's kind of grown old to me, and you know what? I probably get more out of Nostalgia Critic as Zod than I do Terrence Stamp as Zod.
Right. And the only other interesting things about the Kryptonians to me is that Ursa's hot.
Sure. No, yeah, I'm not going to argue with that.
And okay, this was something that Brian brought up with when he was watching Superman 2.
Oh boy.
And I don't know if he takes this back or not, but he was watching Sonan, right?
Yeah, the big bearded guy who doesn't talk.
Brian thought he looked like Quentin Reviews.
I see it. I mean, more muscular, but you know.
So now whenever you can watch Superman 2 and you see like this big brute that Zod's following, you can just picture him as a fucking YouTuber who made a whole rant about hating Trump or making a fucking 5 to 8 hour video on Victorious.
Yeah. The guy who celebrated Mumkey Jones being deleted off YouTube. I love the moment. I love the part in Superman 2 when Non said, I gotta be honest, I fucking hate Trump. That's so good. Honestly, Brian, I agree.
I like the part where he asked Zod to subscribe to T-Series.
I will say, speaking of Non, the one thing I'll give the Lester cut over the Donner cut is they give Non a bit of an arc with his laser eyes in the Lester cut. Because after Ursa gets bitten by the snake, she like lights it on fire with her laser eyes. And so then he picks up the charred remains of the snake and tries to use his laser eyes, but they don't work as well. Then later on in the movie, he tries to use laser eyes again. They don't work. And then by the time the army shows up, when they're at, East Houston, and Non actually gets his laser eyes working. It's like, okay, that's cute. That's a cute little moment, cute little bit of scenes to like show his progression as he's starting to hone in his powers. It's like, that's cute. They don't have that in the Donner cut. That's like the one thing I'll give the Lester cut over the Donner cut, though.
Yeah. To be honest, I think with what the Lester cut adds, the stuff with Zod and is it's inoffensive at worst, even if it does drag the movie out a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, it's cool when you get
a lot of the stuff with them isn't really seen in the Donner cut, even if that leads to a better paced movie. But I think that their bits are fine.
Yeah, I do like the part where they're at the podunk American town, and that guy's like Zod is using one of those guys to like float in the air with the shotgun, and his little boy comes up and he goes, "Please, sir, don't hit my father." It's like, what is this little British boy doing in the Texas small town? Like,
I think that their scene on the moon was the coolest part. The coolest part that they had in both cuts, and that's about it.
Yeah,
I don't even have much to talk about it, to be honest.
Yeah, just little things. I will say, okay, there's that moment where they're flying past Mount Rushmore and they change all the faces into their faces. It's like, okay, that's cute. Like that's cute. I want more of that, but like, it doesn't really.
Yeah, another small thing that the Donner cut has, I was pissed was missing from the Lester cut is okay. So like the first scene of the White House, Luthor offers them Superman's location in exchange for Australia.
Yeah,
but then in the Donner cut, he offers them again to go to the Fortress of Solitude, and Zod asks, what do you want? I can see the greed in your eyes. And then Lex responds with, Cuba.
Yeah, that's funny. I do like how.
And then it just hard cuts to them flying.
Yeah, I do like in the later scene, because he gets Australia, he goes, Lex Luthor, ruler of Australia. It's like, okay, that's funny. I'm glad both cuts have that line. It's a very good line.
It's like some of the stuff that the lesser cut adds. Okay, it's not like the worst stuff in the world, even if it's just that they completely fuck up Lois's arc for no reason whatsoever.
Yeah.
Severely hampers the film.
Yeah, definitely. I do want to kind of get into a problem I have with the movie, and this goes for both versions. And that is Superman losing his powers. I want to talk about this because even as a kid, when I watched this movie, I remember watching it randomly and just watching the whole thing. Even as a kid, I hated the idea of him losing his powers. Just because it really makes no sense. It's never explained well in either cut. I guess in the Donner cut, it's explained a little, at least from Jor-El. But even still, it never goes beyond, you have to give up your powers. Why? Because, like, just if you want to be with Lois, you have to give up your powers. Why? Just cause. Like, that's all it ever goes to. And I don't like that. Like, if you're going to have a subplot of him losing his powers, have it not be in the same movie where Clark and Lois get together. I feel like if you have Clark and Lois getting together, that's it. That's your story. Maybe the next movie you explore, I can't do this whole Superman thing while trying to balance a relationship with Lois. That's when you do the whole, this is where I give up my powers kind of thing, if at all. I still think it's stupid because they take it so literally, where it's just like, here, go into this chamber, use these crystals, and this is how you'll lose your powers. It's like, hold on.
Right.
What are we doing here? What is that? What are you doing here? What? That's so stupid.
Yeah. It's been a while since I've watched it, but Spider-Man 2 handles it way better.
Way better. Yeah, Spider-Man 2 does this much better because him losing his powers is far more psychological, and it works well with his character arc of, I gotta find the balance. Do I be Peter Parker? Do I be Spider-Man? Like that, yeah. That movie handles it so much better because then when he gets his powers back, again, it was all psychological. It was all in his head, so he had him to begin with. Here, It's literal. They literally take his powers away, and then they're like, okay, how does he get him back? And both movies do a terrible job at explaining how he gets his powers back. Yeah, Donner cut better, but even still, Lester cut, they don't even try to explain it. They just have him holding the green crystal at one point, and then the next shot, he's just flying again. It's like, okay, I guess no explanation is better than a dumb explanation.
At least in Donner cut, you have some speech that Jor-El has with Clark.
Yeah.
Something.
It still sucks. I still don't like it because it makes no sense. This is where the logistical, I'll put the logic arguments in this, where it's like, no, this makes no sense. This is so stupid. I can't suspend my disbelief with this. This is too dumb.
Yeah, and I wouldn't even have much of an issue for it if it just didn't make the movie feel like it had a kind of a cynical message behind it. I can explain this a bit. So, especially, again, during the time where this was released, there was a status quo issue, as many comics have, where Lois cannot know Clark's identity for, the rest of time or some shit.
Right.
This status quo was only broken with the post-crisis, where one issue of Action Comics, after Superman has a run-in with the Silver Banshee, does he reveal his identity and eventually in those comics, the post-crisis comics, Clark and Lois would go on to become an official married.
Okay.
And in the Death of Superman saga, especially, is basically when Clark gets fridged, that's when Lois develops more as a character. Ever since post-crisis, them becoming actual couple where Lois knows Clark's identity has become a staple. It was undone for a little bit, for a couple years in the New 52, but Rebirth undid that, thank God. And I think this is what makes Superman 2 just kind of age pretty poorly instead of this, because it just insists that Clark cannot have a happy life with Lois while he's still saving people as Superman. Like, that's just, I don't like that at all. And this also factors into both movies' endings. Both of them suck.
Yeah.
Which one you hate more? Pick your poison.
Yeah. So I guess to jump ahead to the ending, yeah, you either get the Lester cut where he does the amnesia kiss on Lois, so then everything goes back to normal, or in the Donner cut, he just does the whole time travel thing again. I think because I'm okay with the time travel in the first movie, I prefer the Donner cut ending, because at least I know he can do that. It's like, okay, I already know he can turn back time. I guess it does kind of lessen the impact of the first one, because it's like, oh, he can just do it any time he wants. It's like, yeah, it kind of lessens the impact of what the first one represented with that.
Right.
But I strongly feel like the amnesia kiss is so stupid in the Lester cut, because it's like, what does that mean? He just kisses her and then she just forgets everything. It's so stupid to me that happens. Like, because it's just it's one of the problems I have with the movie, in that they just make up powers for Superman to have. That's not really a problem in the Donner cut. In the Donner cut, they remain consistent with the powers he has: the laser eyes, the super breath, the super speed, and whatnot. Like, a lot of the times it's convenient what he has, but they don't stray away from those powers. They stay relatively consistent with that.
Right.
And then in the Lester cut, you have, the amnesia kiss. You have him pulling out his S out of the suit and throwing it at Non. You have him teleporting randomly. You have him project perfect projection copies of himself at a point. It's like, okay,
what are you doing?
Yeah, what are we doing here? We're just making shit up as we go along. Yeah. This is so stupid.
And to get ahead a little bit, it's not even like My Adventure, where as episodes and the show goes on, gain powers, most of which are within reason. In the Lester cut, it's just pulling out the dumbest powers with no explanation, just because.
Yeah, and it's stupid. And the amnesia kiss is the ultimate just because. It's like, yeah, and it makes no sense. I hate it so much, because it also just doesn't make sense within the movie's universe. And yeah, the character arc of like, oh, we're going to figure this out. He's like, no, let me just kiss you. And then it's just, either way, it doesn't work. I feel like you need to have Lois going forward know about Clark. Like, that's just what it is, and that's fine. But no, they chose to not go with that. They chose to just be like, no, Lois doesn't know. That's the status quo. Yeah, either way, it annoys me. I get less angry with the Donner cut ending.
Yeah. I kind of agree, but I still get really annoyed with the Donner cut ending, and how much I prefer that cut.
Yeah.
Because it basically ends the movie with pretty much all the events being done.
Yeah.
Basically.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, including Lois's own arc, which really sucks. And on top of that, it basically gives Clark no reason to go back to beat up the guy. Like, why are you doing that?
Yeah, that's another good point. Yeah, that's so the diner scene is weird for me already, because you just have this this stereotypical bully character, the stereotypical 50-year-old bully character, just being like a jackass in the diner, beating the shit out of Clark, which is funny. It's immediately he gets rid of his powers and he gets the shit kicked out of him. Like, that's funny.
Right.
But then later in the movie, like during the ending, he goes back to that diner and beats the shit out of that guy. It's like, this seems awfully petty for Superman to do. Like, I don't know. I just can't imagine Superman caring that much to go back and beat the shit out of that guy. I don't know. It just seemed weird. And especially, I mean, he's especially dorky when he goes in. He's like, and he sees the guy and he's like, hey, give me some more of this garbage, waitress. And Superman goes with the iconic comeback. Wow, I've never seen garbage eat garbage before. It's like, wow, good one, dude.
Yeah. Personally speaking, I like it when Superman is petty sometimes because, yeah, even with all these powers, we do have moments where someone would want to be a little selfish with them. I think that humanizes Clark.
Sure.
It's like the angry moments where the less you do it, the more those moments stand.
Sure, that's fair. That's fair. But you bring up a very good point. Yeah, you bring up a good point. If the Donner cut means he reversed everything, then him going back to that diner makes zero sense.
Yeah. With Lester cut, it's fine in spite of how bad the amnesia kiss in was. With Donner cut, it's a step too far in my opinion.
Yeah, because you're right. Yeah, no, he just walks in, and that guy never really did anything. If we're going off of the fact that, you know, he reversed everything, like literally reverse Zod going back into the Phantom Zone. That's how much he reversed. So it's like, okay, you're just going back to this diner and just beating the shit out of this dude for no reason. Like, yeah, he's a jerk, but like, okay, you're not doing what you're doing is illegal, dude. You're just beating the shit out of this guy.
Right.
Yeah, there's no reason to do it.
But hey, it's fine because he gave the money back to repair.
Oh yeah, diners. Yeah. He just gives the guy a bunch of cash. Like, okay, where'd you get that cash? You're a reporter. Where are you getting this money from, Clark?
Yeah, and then it ends the same way with the outside the Earth with Superman saluting to the audience.
Literally the exact same shot, and they try to make this a running thing with these movies, and it's annoying. It's like, no, don't do that. This movie didn't earn that shot.
I'll be at least somewhat lenient with the Donner cut ending in that, again, it's a proof of concept movie, and I believe Donner has said if he had the opportunity, he would have filmed a different ending.
Sure.
With what they had to work with for the Donner cut, it was either that or the amnesia kiss.
Yeah. Again, I hate the amnesia kiss so much. I'll take the weird proof of concept reverse. Yeah, because again, they play stock footage of the Earth reversing, you know, like in New York. It's like, okay, this like 2006 looking stock footage in a movie from the late 70s. It looked weird. it was bizarre. But if you're gonna do that, I prefer it over the amnesia kiss. Yeah,
right.
It still sucks. I will agree. But even just the climax, just to go a little bit back to the climax itself, where you have Superman fighting Zod, I much prefer the Donner cut because the climax in the Lester cut is really awkward. Because you have moments that are, you just have like people standing around in the Lester cut. It's really bizarre. Whereas I feel like the cuts are a lot quicker in the Donner cut, where it doesn't seem as awkward, where you have just people standing around as Superman is fighting the Zod and his hired goons. I feel like it's much better done so in the Donner cut. Whereas in the Lester cut, you have a lot of really awkward standing around. You have moments where, I guess in any other movie I'd love because of how funny they are. You have the couple coming out of the KFC and being blown away, and the lady coming out being like, here's your change. Whoa!
Yep.
You have the guy on the phone just still talking on the phone while he's like on the ground. It's like, I should be laughing at these, but I don't know. I never found them that funny.
Yeah. And there's actually, I think the whole battle in Metropolis is just kind of fine, but way better in the Donner cut.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah.
There's actually one extra bit to the Lester ending that I forgot to mention. It's when Superman goes back to the fucking White House and puts the flag back on top, and he's like, I'm sorry, Mr. President, I won't ever...
Yeah.
And it's like...
I mean, I like the shot of him carrying the American flag. Like, that was cool. But
it's just kind of weird for me, since I even remember watching a documentary that Reeve was kind of worried about how Superman could be interpreted as American propaganda tool.
Right.
And it for for the concept, yeah. For the character, it actually isn't super common, unless we're talking about in the late 80s comics post-crisis, John Byrne decided to make Superman buddy with Ronald.
Hilarious.
Yep.
Well, Superman, I guess you're my best friend now.
And it's even funnier since I don't even know if this was done intentionally or not, but the Dark Knight Returns story that Frank Miller wrote, before he went full Islamophobia.
Before he went nutso.
Directly made fun of this. So.
Yeah. Well, that's what I always found it interesting that, like, in the Dark Knight Returns, the movies that I saw, Superman is kind of buddy with Reagan. And that's why he's sent to, like, kind of kill Batman. That's interesting, actually.
One of my friends, like, initially thought, before we had to correct them, that they always thought that Superman was a character who would stand for a lot of the shitty American practices, and I forever blame John Byrne for that specific. He's middling writer, very terrible and xenophobic person.
But at least we caught that cool shot of Superman carrying the American flag. It's cool.
Woohoo!
Yeah. What else is there to say about the Lester and Donner cut? Yeah. I will say, through talking about Superman 2, lowering my score. I don't know why I tried to be nice and give it a 5 out of 10. I'm giving it the full 4. I'm live on air right now, folks. I'm going back to my Superman 2 review. I'm going to lower it to a 4 because
hell yeah, same score as mine.
Yeah, I really just don't like it. There's elements. It still has Gene Hackman. It still has Otis. It still has Reeve as Superman. Reeve as Superman is genuinely good. I think he's able to still deliver a fun Superman performance that we love so much, even throughout this shit. But I feel like I should have listened to my inner child when watching this, because even as a kid, when watching Superman 2, I thought it was weird. I didn't like a lot of the choices it made. I just thought, like, maybe I was missing something, because I was reading some reviews where people are like, "Oh, I'm so nostalgic for this movie. It's so goofy. It's total camp." And it's like, no, I just can't. I can think of other movies I love that are so dumb that I love them, but I don't know. There's just too much working against this film. I like I said, I think the Donner cut is much better. It's a much better movie. Like, it feels like a movie. It still has things I don't like about it. Like I said, the losing powers and the weird ending of, just kind of getting rid of the whole arc by the end, just being like, yep, none of this mattered. But I think at the end of the day, it is a much better movie. Whereas Lester, I don't know. I don't see why this is beloved by so much. Maybe it's because of Zod.
Yeah. Donner cut, I have my issues with it, as I've already gone on. But I still think it is a very genuinely great movie and solid, especially for proof of concept. And I do think that as a product especially, I appreciate it a lot as Donner actually getting a chance to finally publicize and getting to show people what he would have done for Superman 2.
Oh, yeah.
Lester cut, genuinely disgusting product.
Yeah. If anything, I'm just glad the Donner cut exists because we get to see an alternate version. We get to see the director get his vision out there. Like, yeah, if anything, I love it just for that. I love when movies are able to get their, respective versions out there. I don't respect Zack Snyder as an artist, but I'm glad that he was able to get his cut out there with the Justice League movie.
Same here.
Yeah. I would prefer, no matter who it is, I would prefer a person get their full vision out there, even if it's, known as an alternate cut, whatever. Like, whatever.
Right. And I initially thought that when watching the Justice League and initially preferring the Whedon cut, at this point, I don't know anymore.
Yeah, I don't know either.
Yeah. But thinking, okay, maybe sometimes corporate stepping in is good. No, and 99% of it always sucks.
Yeah.
It always serves to make movies worse because you get shitheads like Katzenberg and the Salkinds who don't know.
Yeah. I mean, this year we've been seeing a lot of directors get a chance to make whatever the fuck they want, because we got stuff like Sinners and Mickey 17, which are so obviously the director's full vision. Like Bong Joon-ho and Ryan Coogler were able to make the movies they wanted to make without studio meddling. Say what you will about those movies. I much prefer Ryan Coogler with Sinners than I do Bong Joon-ho's Mickey 17. I think Mickey 17 I have a lot of issues with. But it's like, you know what? At the end of the day, it's still his vision. He got to make whatever movie he wanted after Parasite. So it's like, fine. He can make whatever he wants. It doesn't matter. But
and like hell, we're even getting this with James Gunn's Superman. We're like, sure, he's making his own changes based on critical feedback that he got from test screenings. It's obvious, and some other. But at the same time, this is him holding himself back and holding himself accountable to make a genuine movie that I know for sure is going to be a lot better than fuck that show.
Better than what show? Sorry, you cut out there.
Creature Commandos.
Oh yeah. It's just the beginning of the DCU, some random animated movie show that I didn't watch because I don't care.
And I hate it. At least we're getting Superman. Yeah. At least we're getting Superman next month. That's the good thing.
That is
going to be a lot better than this shit. I'm confident about that.
Well, yeah. We'll only see, but I'm confident myself too. Yeah. Here's the fucked up thing. The Richard Lester cut of Superman 2 so far is the only DVD to work properly.
Oh.
Yeah, because it played all the way through. Because then I started the Richard Donner cut. I got it halfway through, and then it scratched, and I was like, fuck, I got to watch the rest of it on Amazon Prime. So that was frustrating.
You want to know what the extra fucked up thing is? The Lester cut is on Max, but they didn't bother putting the Donner cut on.
Yeah, come on. Put both versions up. I don't care. Like, yeah, I hate the Lester cut, but like, I don't know. If you're going to have it there, have the Donner cut as well. Like, have both versions.
Especially since they have both cuts on the 4K collection with their own separate sets.
Right.
Which I can get into a bit.
Please do.
So I haven't checked out all the extras for both sets. Obviously, Donner Cut does have less features on it. Mainly less audio options, whereas Lester Cut has a whole host of different languages. The original theatrical audio with Donner Cut, it's only.
Yeah, I mean, because I don't think the Donner Cut went to theaters, did it?
It never did.
Okay, yeah.
Or at least I don't think.
Right.
And there's obviously the documentaries and some more features for the theatrical Superman 2, but the biggest surprise that I found really took me from surprise. They're split between both Blu-ray versions of the 4Ks, but on the 4K releases of the Lester and Donner cuts of Superman 2 have all of the Fleischer shorts on them.
Ooh, hell yeah. There you go.
I have not watched them yet.
Okay.
But, from what I know, the theatrical cut of Superman 2 on Blu-ray has the first 9 Fleischer shorts, which I think were the ones actually made by Fleischer.
Yes.
And the second half is on the Donner Cut Blu-ray, which has the remaining shorts. All of them are there and accounted for.
Yeah.
Including the racist ones.
Oh, the racist ones. Hell yeah. Let's go.
Awesome.
Yeah, no. Oh, dude, you got to watch the Fleischer cartoons. I mean, I did a whole episode on them last episode. But they're very good. Well,
I've watched most of them. I have some positive things to say about them, but I never finished them, so I plan on doing that soon.
Oh, dude, yeah, no, they're. I mean, some of them are some of my favorite pieces of Superman media, and some of them are American World War II era propaganda against the Japanese. So, you know,
my favorite.
Yeah.
I like the part where Bugs Bunny went to Berlin, Tokyo.
Yep.
Yeah. Lame-ass movie with a great director's cut, but both of them also has some really kick-ass shorts, and since they're part of the 4K set that I own, I'm still keeping them.
Oh, good. Good. Yeah, well, I still don't know if I'm going to keep this Superman Collector's Edition. But let's say hypothetically I don't. I wouldn't mind having the Superman 2 4K. Definitely a Richard Donner cut. I don't know if I would want the Lester cut, though, because that one just has not... it's not aged well, in my opinion, but...
Yep.
Never say never, I guess. Again, I still don't know if I'm keeping the collector's edition DVD.
Definitely get the one for the Donner's cut, since, again, not on any streaming service.
Oh, yeah, no, especially that. Yeah, I think owning it on physical, because there's no official streaming of it. I mean, I have the Star Wars Holiday Special on DVD because there's no streaming option for it, so yeah.
Yep. Okay, so I think that's pretty much everything we can say about both of these movies.
All three of these movies, technically. Yeah, no, I'd say that we can end the episode here for now. We'll be back with more Superman Summer, the Summer of Superman, next episode. Bye-bye, everybody.
See ya!